Hey guys, Carlos here from Angler's Lifestyle. So, just wanted to give you an update about my worm farm. Unfortunately, something went wrong and I'm not exactly sure where my worm went. Okay, so I've checked with a rake, I've dug up the worm bin, and I can't find any worm whatsoever. So, lessons learned, I gotta start over. This time, I'm gonna try and keep it simple. I'm gonna go with less material and maybe monitor it better. Last time I was out of town, wasn't able to feed the worm farm quite regularly, and maybe it was too hot, or I'm not quite sure what happened, but I may have overcomplicated my worm bin. So to make the long story short, it's worm bin 2.0 today. So we're just gonna use a couple of materials, and one of which is going to be the main source of my worm bedding here, which is this, what do you call, I bought this Cocoa Bliss, okay, which is, it says coconut pith. All right, so it's almost like a coconut moss. So the way it's gonna work is I'm gonna go ahead and put this in water. Okay, I went ahead and filled my bucket again, the bottom half of my bin, with water, and that doesn't have any hole. So the instructions is you're supposed to just go ahead and soak this, and then once it gets soaked, essentially that's what we're gonna start with as the worm bedding. Okay, so you guys know this is a 10-pound weight. It's Cocoa Bliss organic. All right, and it's essentially a compressed shredded coconut husk. Maybe, I'm actually not quite sure, but if you guys know, go ahead and comment below. So essentially, I'm gonna take this brick of Cocoa Bliss, and I'm gonna submerge it in water. Now it looks like it's starting to absorb some of this water rather quickly. So I may have to rotate it a bit, maybe add some more water or something. Whoa. Wow, it sucked up a lot of the water already. I may have to add some more water. Okay, so it took a while for that 10-pound brick of Cocoa Bliss to absorb the water. And one thing I learned, 10 pounds is a lot. Okay, that'll definitely fill your bin and all the way to the brim, and I actually had to remove some of it. Well, anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get started and lay the first foundation for my bin. So if you may recall, the original bin that my son and I did was this gray bin. It was let's see, it was a 10-gallon. Okay, this 10-gallon bin that we went ahead and drilled some holes in there at the bottom and then the top as well. So what I've learned so far is to start it with some either newspaper on the bottom or paper towel. That would work as well. So we're gonna go ahead and just put some paper towels down. I guess that's a worm diaper. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and put some paper towel down. Again, one sheet of newspaper is more than enough to cover the bottom, and that should work as well. So the next thing we'll do is we're gonna go ahead and add some of the Cocoa Bliss. All right, this is a lot. See, it filled an entire bin. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and add some of these Cocoa Bliss down. It's actually quite moist after I've added so much water in there. Again, I have a lot of excess Cocoa Bliss here. All right, I guess these worms are gonna be ever so happy. All right, I think last time my worm escaped the bin completely, and or maybe I didn't feed it enough or something. I'm not quite sure. Or maybe the bedding dried up. Again, I'm not quite sure. I guess the next thing to do now is to go ahead and just add the worms. Okay. I'm not going to remove the original soil that it came with in the tub and these live wranglers. Go ahead and add some more of these worms. Okay. And what I noticed about when I was fishing and for catfish, these worms weren't quite active, so I suspect that they're a bit lethargic from the conditions they're in, being in the tub. But hopefully this will, give them a better home to live in. And let's see how quickly they will adapt to this Cocoa Bliss. The worms are starting to dig in as the trout season comes closer and closer. These worms would be very useful for fishing. So these worms have started to dig in already, right? And I'm gonna go ahead and add some of this newspaper. Okay, kind of put them in there, hide them a little bit and get them acclimated. These are just newspaper. This doesn't have any of the white legal copier paper. This is just straight newspaper bedding. Okay, and what we'll do is in a couple of days we're gonna go ahead and feed these guys, get them acclimated in there. So here's some of the egg crates, okay, that I soaked. Right, I'm gonna go ahead and lay that down. Keep moisture. So what I pretty much learned here is worm definitely likes moisture, a lot of moisture. I think they abandoned my last bin because I had dried up a little bit, or maybe completely dried, I'm not sure. All I know is I couldn't find any more worm in the bin. So after you've topped your worms with shredded newspaper and these egg crates that I've been soaking in water to keep the moisture in the bin itself, it's highly recommended to use these burlap sack material and cover your bin just like this. Okay, especially very useful once I start feeding these worms with fruit, okay, and vegetables. That'll also help the bugs from infiltrating my bin. So the next thing is essentially you take the cover that you may recall, drill some holes in there, and essentially just cover your bin, okay, and the bottom half of the bin, as you may recall, you need to make sure that you have a brick so you can elevate the top portion, okay, of the bin. Okay, essentially you keep that in the middle, okay. And once you've kept that in the middle, okay, essentially you just take your bin and you put it inside just like that, okay, and that'll definitely help ventilate the bottom, keep your worm bin moist. And again, in a couple of days I will be feeding these worms, and we'll see how they do, and I will keep you guys posted. Okay guys, it's been a couple of days since we set up Worm Bin 2.0. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and we're going to go and analyze the bin cover. We're going to analyze the bottom bin to see if we actually have any worm that's trying to escape. We're gonna go ahead and have a look at the bin cover here, and there's some moisture. That's typical because we had some moisture introduced into the bedding, and then of course there's some soil that's gathering around the lid here. I suspect that that's trail marks for some worms that's trying to escape. So let's see. So the thing that we need to look at also, we need to look at the bottom bin to see if we have any worms. And yes, it looks like that we have a few in here that's trying to escape. So we need to look at to see if the holes in the bottom okay are too big on the bin itself. But you know, again, this is fairly easy. We just gather up all the worms, all right, and we will put them back. So we'll also have a look to see if the bottom part of our bin has some escape holes. I don't think they're escaping there. I think, judging from the lid here, okay, there's quite a few of soil. I think they're coming up from the side. We're gonna go ahead and have a look. And as you can see here, right here, there's some worms, okay, on the side of this bin that they're climbing up. So they're climbing up from the lid. I think that's where they're trying to get out. Or it could be that they're trying to get out of these holes as well, at least the smaller ones. Peel back some of this. Have a look to see. Okay. Okay, they're definitely at the top, and I suspect that these worms are looking for food. That's definitely probably what they're doing at the moment. So we have quite a few here. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and put back some of these worms that have been trying to escape. Right, guys, go back to your lair, and we're gonna go ahead and feed you. All right, I had put together a buffet for these guys to eat. All right, I've got some oatmeal right there. I've got some corn on the cob. I understand that worms like to dig through these holes and actually put their eggs in the corn holes here on the cob. So we've got some of that. We also have some corn here, all right, some carrots, and we have some mushrooms, and I've got some celery stalks here, and I've got some butter lettuce. What we're gonna do is, so we need to figure out what exactly they like to eat. I'm not sure yet, so I'm gonna go ahead and dig up a trough right here, okay, and we will line up the food to see which one that they will eat. So the idea here is you dig up a trough, okay, so when we look at which food they're eating, it's easy to tell. Okay, so let's go ahead and dig up a trough, all right, and go ahead and add the oatmeal, all right, and figure out what exactly they want to eat. Go ahead and put some of this corn on the cob. Okay, put some of this oatmeal here. All right, go ahead and put some of this chopped up corn and carrots. Put it there. Okay, and we're gonna go ahead and put some of these vegetables, composting vegetables. I think that should be enough. All right, and as an added bonus, I've also grounded up some of these eggshells. Okay, and the eggshells help the worms chew through some of these, because the worm have gizzards in them. I would put some of these eggshells here, put it on some of the corn and some of these oatmeal. Right, not so much. You don't need a whole lot. Okay, you just need to be able to chew through this food. Okay, so now that we've completed our trough of food, okay, we're gonna go ahead and bury these guys, okay, with the Cocoa Bliss. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and put back this newspaper shredding that's still quite moist right now, and we'll go ahead and put back the egg crate. All right, there we go. So that'll serve. I mean, we still have some worms out here, and there we go. Okay, make sure that this egg crates still help the moisture retention. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean out, the side of the bin, so I can again monitor to see if there's gonna be any escapees, any worm escapees. I think part of the issue is because they're hungry, they're trying to look for food, they're trying to climb out as well. I'm not sure if they're coming out of these holes, but if there's food in the bin, there's no reason why they should escape or try to get out. So we're gonna go ahead and continue with this burlap, and see there's some little worms in there. Go ahead and push them down, okay, and check this burlap sack to make sure that there's no worm in there trying to escape. All right, it looks good actually. All right, we're gonna go ahead and cover it again. All right, and the side of the bin has some soil. Okay, so judging from that, I think the worm is definitely climbing from either the sides or the top lid or what. But we'll go ahead and clean this out so we can see later on where they're trying to escape, whether they're coming from the top side again. Right, clean that out, clean that out. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and so don't forget your brick, or else you'll never get your bin out. All right, so we'll go ahead and clean this out as well. So we'll go ahead and set that up that way. All right, and similarly we'll go ahead and clean the lid as best that we can, obviously. So that's it. I usually put a brick on top, so that should be enough to keep the seal. Yeah, there's definitely opportunity for this lid. Okay, you see this these ridges? These ridges keep it high enough above the top, okay, in order for the worms to escape. So it really probably didn't even matter whether I had the holes, okay, on this bin. So there's plenty of ventilation just on the ridge itself. I didn't quite know that. So I guess one recommendation would be is to get a bin that you can actually seal. Okay. Okay guys, so it's been a couple of days since we last checked on these worms, and the moment of truth, we're gonna check to see if they're still trying to escape the bin. So the first thing we're gonna do is have a look at the cover. So there's still some evidence of soil. Okay, so I'm sure they're moving about, and you can see some trail marks. I can see some trail marks of water here. You know, there's still obviously some moisture and, you know, evaporating water, but, you know, that's normal. The bin itself, it's quite moist. So the good news is, looking at the bin itself, I don't see any evidence of soil gathering up on the side as track marks for the worm. Similarly, let's check. I don't see any evidence of worm trying to escape as well. The other day when I took a quick peek, there was a couple, you know, but you know, I put them back in the main bin. But the good news is they're definitely staying in this bin now. So you look at the burlap. The burlap itself does not have any worms in it, and by the way, I got myself this rake. I think this was a leftover from my daughter's collection of gardening tools. But this really comes in handy because I use it to touch the coconut pith to see if there's worms there. I don't necessarily want to touch the worm, so I don't know if they like to be handled. If I pull all of this back, I see evidence of worm staying in place. I definitely see the worms moving around, and they're moving around quick and fast. I thought worms are slow, but these worms are actually really fast when they move. See this worm right here? Okay, it's really active. So that's a good thing. And they're definitely looking for that food that's in the bin. So that's good news. So the next step would be is to create another trough on the other side and start a new row of food. The first food that we provided for them, I'm sure, will degrade after a couple of days, and as the worm will continue to work on it. I would like to introduce different food on the other side of the bin to create a hot spot there. It'll take a couple of days for that food to heat up, because the food has a certain timing in which in a couple of days it starts to heat up and then it cools down. Okay, so it's energy released. I'll go ahead and bring this back to this side. Keep these guys happy. And we're going to start a new food trough on the other side. I understand that these worms love watermelon rinds, so I chopped it up, and we're gonna go ahead and lay a good layer so they have something to eat, not so much. And I also have this tomatoes. Give them a chance to break that down. Don't want too much acidity on the bin. And we also have some tea bags. Just open that up, drop it in there. Bags and all. There we go. And I also understand that coffee grinds is good for the worms. Not so much, just you don't want the pH level of your compost to increase. Some paper for carbon. Okay, and I gathered up some of these dried up leaves. For carbon. You can also use cardboard if you would like. Should be good. And of course, eggshells, ground eggshells. That's good. That should be more than enough. Of course, to finish it off, you need to cover it up with the coconut pith or coconut bliss, and we continue to cover it up with the shredded newspaper, which is still moist. And as I mentioned in the previous videos, that lessons learned, the cover of this particular bin has these ridges, and these ridges prevent it from actually completely sealing on the top side, on the lip portion of the container of the bin. Even if I were to close it like this, it's not completely sealing on the lip of the bin. There's still these raised edges, okay, that allows the bin to vent. So there's definitely plenty of circulation for this bin itself. Anyway, this has been a fun project to do for Warm Bin 2.0. As always, come fish with us sometime and create your own warm bin. See ya.